neighbor, like in the case of Dallas police officer Amber Geiger, who one night made a shocking 911 call.
Get up, man.
Dallas 911, this is Carla. Where's your emergency?
Hi, this is an off-duty officer. I need EMS. I'm in number.
What's going on?
I'm an off-duty officer. I thought it was at my apartment, and I shot a guy thinking it was my apartment.
You saw someone?
Yes, I thought it was my apartment. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Okay, and where are you at right now?
I'm inside the apartment with him.
As per reports, Geiger entered the apartment of her neighbor Botham Jean and shot him twice. She claimed she mistook Jean's apartment for her own and thought he was an intruder. Authorities soon arrived at the scene, and time was running out for Jean as officers desperately tried to revive him with CPR. Jean died at the hospital soon after. Geiger was interrogated, where she maintained the same emotions as in the 911 call.
Felt like that guy was gonna kill me. I wish he was the last.
She's leveling off her gun, having acquired her target, and she shoots at him twice. No opportunity for de-escalation, no opportunity for him to surrender. Bang, bang, rapid, double tap.
The prosecution argued that Geiger acted unreasonably and recklessly.
Hits Bo in the chest just above his left nipple. The path of that bullet goes down into his heart, does absolutely devastating damage. Goes through his lung, goes through his stomach, goes through his intestine, until it finally comes to a rest in what's called the psoas muscle, which is halfway between his stomach and his back. This path is very revealing because it is consistent with the fact that Bo was getting up from a seated position and facing the door as Amber Geiger was coming into his home.
The defense argued that Geiger made an honest mistake and acted in self-defense.
Amber Geiger firmly and reasonably believed that she was in her own apartment, that she confronted an intruder, that she had no choice, that she had no options but to use her gun to keep from dying.
Residents of the same building recalled what exactly happened that night.
Just go in and I actually was about to cook me something to eat.
Okay, what happened then?
And then I heard gunshots.
Okay, how many gunshots do you remember?
2.
Anything that you saw that made you think, that's different?
Like I said, I just noticed it was an officer walking in. I saw she had a bag, and I just kind of saw it and went to my apartment.
She broke down and apologized for her actions.
And I'm saying, let me see your hands, let me see your hands.
What were you focused on?
Him.
Just him?
Yes.
And then he began coming towards you?
Yes.
And as he began coming for you, that's when you heard him speak?
Yes.
Good. I'm going to do that now. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
And that's at that point whenever I shot him.
Somewhere in this area.
Yes, sir.
When you shot, what happened?
He fell down.
However, what Geiger said next shocked the whole courtroom.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Shooting him in center mass, exactly where you are trained. You intended to kill Mr. John.
I did.
Did she literally confess to killing Botham Jean? Geiger was sentenced to 10 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 5 years.
The jury find unanimously that the defendant did not cause the death of Botham John while under the immediate influence of sudden passion, and assess the defendant's punishment at 10 years imprisonment in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
This case had an unexpected moment of grace and forgiveness when Jean's younger brother, Brant, took the stand.
Again, I'm speaking for myself, not even bad for my family. But I love you just like anyone else. I'm not gonna say I hope you rot and die. I personally want the best for you. And I wasn't gonna ever say this in front of my family or anyone, but I don't even want you to go to jail.
But what he did next was seen as a powerful gesture of compassion and healing.
I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please?
Another moment of kindness came from the presiding judge, Tammy Kemp, who hugged Geiger and gave her the Bible, telling her to read it and find God. Amber Geiger was sentenced to 10 years in prison for accidentally killing her neighbor. But what happens when a crooked cop gets caught, like in the case of Zachary Wester, who was charged with racketeering and false imprisonment in Florida?
The drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
As per reports, the 28-year-old former sheriff's deputy, Zachary Wester, was accused of planting drugs on unsuspecting motorists during traffic stops.
Seriously. Hey, man. Go ahead and put your hands on. Don't. At this point, you are detained, okay?
I don't do anything. Okay. I just mess with that stuff.
If the drivers denied knowledge of the drugs, they were arrested anyway.
The syringe is actually in like a plastic, larger baggie with a plastic container with a substance in it that appears to be an illegal narcotic. Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
Some of Wester's victims had other prior offenses, which made the alleged possession charges even more serious.
Look, man, you seem like you're pretty squared away, okay?
Yeah.
All right. But I do have an issue with something within the vehicle.
What's that?
Pulled you over. Your driver's license is not valid. Okay. Pulled you out to talk to you about it.
And for the poor souls who resisted and protested their innocence, Wester used his taser on them.
Invasive, I'm gonna send you on hell way here in just a minute. He didn't have anything. That was a slick move, man. Very slick.
Hey, man.
Go ahead and put your hands on. Do not do this.
That's right.
That ain't mine, man. What you trying to do?
Don't just
After a while, the arrest caused suspicion internally.
Began what's called an internal affairs investigation into the defendant's use of his body cameras.
Wester was suspended from the sheriff's department.
First, he made the recommendation that the defendant be suspended pending the outcome of the investigation.
The case went to trial, where Wester pleaded not guilty to all charges.
This is a case about an abuse of an incredible power. The defendant used his position as a deputy sheriff to make traffic stops on 12 members of this community and plant methamphetamine in their cars, methamphetamine and paraphernalia. He turned what should be a law enforcement agency, and is, into something for his own use that was criminal.
Some of Wester's body cam footage was found mysteriously deleted or unusable.
Why in the world would that have been deleted? I wish I knew that answer.
However, the prosecutor found something suspicious in one of Wester's body cam footage.
Why in the world does the defendant have palmed in his hand, just clasped like this, not like this, not like this, like this, a plastic baggie? Why in the world does he have that there? I would submit that this is objective evidence where you see him planting drugs in the moment. You see something in his hand that has no reason, no logical reason, given this stop and what we know about it, for it to be there. This is him planting evidence, and you see it.
Wester's victims testified in court.
I knew my truck was clean. I knew it was.
The white, small plastic baggie that was in that spoon that the deputy just showed you on this video. Had you ever seen that before?
No, sir.
Was that in your car?
No, sir.
The only thing I really saw was the fact that he did keep going, get into the car like several times, over and over and over again. Because he'd come back, he'd talk to me, he'd go back to the car, he'd come back to me, he'd go back to the car.
Count 1, guilty of racketeering as charged. Guilty. Guilty of official misconduct related to Teresa Odom as charged.
Wester was sentenced to 12 years in prison. However, on rare occasions, the aggressors end up protesting in favor of the defendant, as seen in the case of Judge Tracy Hunter. As a former judge, Hunter has experienced a massive fall from grace and now finds herself before Judge Patrick Dinkelacker at Hamilton County Common Pleas Court in Cincinnati. She was originally convicted of charges related to abuse of power after leaking confidential documents to her brother, allowing him to keep his job as a corrections officer. She was sentenced to 6 months in jail, but with her extensive knowledge of the legal system, Hunter managed to drag the appeals process out for an astonishing 6 years, staying free while pursuing her case through the courts. However, she has now exhausted all avenues of appeal and is in court today to determine whether the 6-month sentence will finally be imposed. Unlike most defendants, Hunter has developed a cult following, with many reporters believing her conviction to be politically motivated. Crowds of supporters have gathered both inside and outside the courtroom, and tensions are running high. Unfortunately for Hunter, her luck has run out as Judge Dinkelacker orders that she serve the entire sentence, setting in motion an extraordinary chain of events.
One, you pay the cost of these proceedings. Number 2, you are to do not violate any laws. Number 3, you are to do 6 months in the Hamilton County Justice Center, credit 1 day. Mr. or Ms. Deputy can take her away.
As the former judge stands, a collective outcry erupts from the gallery. Her supporters begin shouting in protest, voicing their discontent over the ruling. The deputies standing in the center aisle turn to the left, raising their arms in an attempt to calm the crowd. However, as they do so, a woman on the right-hand side of the gallery sees her opportunity and stands, rushing toward Hunter without interruption. As she nears her destination, the deputy closest to the podium spots her and frantically moves to stop her. The rising tension suddenly boils over. As one of the deputies moves to lead Hunter from the courtroom, she begins to struggle before going limp. By now, the gallery is in an uproar, and supporters cry out, "No justice!" The judge-turned-felon is then dragged unceremoniously from the courtroom. The woman who attempted to approach Hunter is handcuffed and led out of the courtroom by officers. The remainder of Hunter's supporters are still incensed as they exit, rallying outside the courthouse, chanting and marching in protest. Despite the chaos, Hunter ultimately serves just 3 months of her sentence before being released. While her support from the public was strong and the courtroom drama may have been out of line, the ultimate intention of her supporters was seen as morally upstanding. However, as we see in the next case, this isn't always the case. At the Marion County Judicial Center in Florida, Travis Davis has just been found guilty of first-degree murder, alongside co-defendants Brandon Banks, Kelvin Grimmage, and Kella Richardson. The 4 men are facing life in prison for shooting homeowner Courtney London during a home robbery in Ocala. Tensions are running high after the delivery of the verdict, and due to the known volatile nature of the defendants, extra deputies have been drafted in to maintain control in the courtroom. As the judge proceeds with the hearing, he asks the prosecutor if they can move forward with sentencing.
Any legal reason we shouldn't proceed with sentencing today?
Everything seems to be proceeding normally in the courtroom, but unbeknownst to everyone, things are about to take a shocking turn. Watch closely as Davis reacts just before the judge delivers the sentence. A deputy behind him attempts to cuff him, but Davis quickly yanks his hand away. Sensing the danger, the deputy immediately grabs Davis from behind, but that's when the situation escalates. A second deputy rushes toward co-defendant Grimmage to cuff him. As the deputy leans over the table, Grimmage pulls back. Davis uses his body weight to throw himself onto the table in front of him, while Grimmage joins in, grappling with the deputy and throwing punches. The chaos continues as both men are eventually dragged to the ground. Meanwhile, Davis is wrestled to the ground but manages to get back up, swinging his fists wildly as he lashes out at the deputies and even at his own defense attorney, who eventually escapes around the side of the table. With the courtroom in chaos, the deputy at the back steps in and unleashes his taser on Davis, causing him to fall to the ground. Grimmage and Banks are also tased, though Banks hasn't joined in the chaos. Luckily for Richardson, he had already been handcuffed and was rushed to the side of the courtroom when the melee erupted. The public in the gallery are up in arms, shouting and reacting to the chaos unfolding in the courtroom. A deputy orders them to leave, but many are reluctant to go, clearly upset by the violent disruption. The tension in the courtroom escalates as the deputies work to restore order and remove the unruly onlookers. The room is eventually cleared, and the deputies regain control, bringing Davis and Grimmage into the center of the courtroom. Although they ultimately face no charges related to the brawl, all 4 defendants in the Davis case are sentenced to life without parole for the murder. In such cases, the chaos in the courtroom has no bearing on the verdict or sentence. However, in the case of Carl Williams, the outcome of his trial was dramatically altered after a courtroom incident. Williams is on trial in DeKalb County for shooting and killing his girlfriend, Donana Jackson. He claims the gun went off accidentally while he was showing it to her. In the courtroom, after closing arguments, the jury exits and Williams stays behind to speak with his lawyer. The mood is calm until suddenly, a person from the public gallery rushes up to the defense table and attacks Williams. A brawl ensues, with fists flying as family members of Donana Jackson join in, swarming Williams. His defense attorney is caught in the chaos, pushed and pulled. Deputies rush in to separate the groups, arresting the individual who instigated the incident. Despite the warning, the woman grows increasingly belligerent, causing further disruption. The judge pauses the proceedings as the deputy climbs over the railings to address her directly, warning that another outburst will result in her removal. However, the judge has already had enough and swiftly orders the woman to leave the courtroom. The jury, who were in an adjoining room, hear the entire commotion, and as a result, a mistrial is granted to Williams. No retrial has been brought before the courts to date. The attack on Williams was a physical one, designed to cause as much damage as possible in a short amount of time. However, sometimes, as the next clip shows, verbal altercations can also lead to chaos in the courtroom. Lucas Lucas Kendall is appearing in Miami-Dade criminal court for a pre-trial hearing. The former bodybuilder is charged with killing Kewan Bird and attempting to kill Michael Smathers outside a Miami strip club. Kendall claims that Bird and Smathers were watching him menacingly from their vehicle, and when he went to grab something from his own car, the two men jumped out and threatened to kill him. Kendall then pulled out his Glock and began shooting, killing Bird and paralyzing Smathers. It was later revealed that neither man was armed, and Smathers denied that any words were spoken to Kendall. Kendall, who has been diagnosed with several mental disorders, is in court to determine his competency to stand trial. Bird's family and friends are present, including his father, Donald. The hearing begins calmly as the judge discusses Kendall's competency before moving on to the matter of where Kendall should be detained.
And then the issue is that you want him housed where?
At the same facility he's been housed.
In order to prevent him from decompensating?
Yes, Your Honor. He eventually decompensated to the point where he was sitting in a fetal position, naked, not eating, and not interacting with any human being.
While undergoing psychiatric evaluation and treatment, Kendall was moved from jail to a mental hospital. His attorney is now arguing that he should be returned to the hospital instead of being sent back to jail. Meanwhile, in the public gallery, Donald Bird, the father of Kewan Bird, is growing increasingly angry with the ongoing discussion. His emotions are building up, and it's all about to boil over as he loses control.
He need to go to prison, man. Come on, Let's go. He want to play crazy. He wasn't crazy when he murdered my son, man. He wasn't crazy then, but he crazy now. All of a sudden he crazy now. You want to lay in a mental hospital? You don't murder my son, man, for nothing. When he was trying to get away from you, you were trying to get away from you, man. And you kept shooting him while his back was under the truck. You kept shooting him, man. You kept shooting him in his back. His back was tight to you, man. He was trying to get away from you, and you murdered him, man, like that. You murdered him, man, like that.
The situation with Kevin Lyons escalates quickly after his handcuffs are placed in front of him instead of behind, a decision that turns dangerous. As he exits the holding cell, the male officer initially has control, but Lyons spins around, pulling both officers to the ground. Despite the officer's best efforts to subdue him, Lyons displays impressive strength, even kicking the female officer in the head, knocking her to the floor. He then manages to slip his handcuffs off, using them to choke the male officer, creating a perilous situation. The female officer, using a baton to try to stop him, is unsuccessful at first. After a tense struggle, the officers finally manage to subdue Lyons and pin him to the ground with the arrival of a third officer for backup. The officers, ensuring that they take no chances after the intense struggle, work together to securely restrain Lyons. Despite the chaotic situation, Lyons remains calm and even engages in casual conversation with them, discussing his history of violence as they continue to secure his hands. His demeanor suggests that he is accustomed to such interactions, showing little concern for the severity of the situation. After the officers are sure that Lyons is no longer a threat, they manage to bring him to his feet. However, Lyons refuses to back down and continues to resist. He starts making unsubstantiated claims, alleging that the officer started it by jumping on him. Despite his attempts to shift the blame, the officers remain calm and continue to control the situation, ensuring his compliance as they move forward.
You see my record? No, I haven't. Well, I hope you don't see it.
After being returned to his cell, Lyons continues to complain, insisting that he is the victim of the situation. However, thanks to the surveillance camera that recorded the entire incident, his claims hold no weight.
Okay, you know what I mean? Yeah. He's crooked as that's what it is. Okay. That's messed up. So, I didn't do to him. He wants to grab me on wrist and start kneeling me, recording. Yeah, the camera thing gonna catch it.
The male officer involved in the altercation sustains lacerations to his face and ear due to Lyon's violent actions. As a result, Lyon's simple DUI charge is escalated to 2 counts of aggravated assault against a corrections officer, leading to an 18-month sentence at Douglas State Prison. In some cases, however, the frustration and anger extend beyond the convict and toward the victims' families. One example of this is David Chavez, where his loved one's anger at his incarceration leads to outbursts directed at the victim's family. And there you have it, some of the most intense and chaotic moments from courtrooms where tempers flared and situations spiraled out of control. These events serve as a reminder of the high emotions that often accompany legal battles and the lengths some will go to when pushed to their limits. Whether it's a violent outburst or an emotional breakdown, these incidents highlight just how unpredictable courtrooms can be. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more stories from the heart of the justice system.